Straight up. Happy Bible study on this evening. We are in Genesis chapter 36 and verse 14 in the midst of all of these very difficult to pronounce names. Well, it's inevitable. You got to go through them at some point. Okay, in verse 14, I'll try to make this as painless as possible, but some of these, I'm winging it. And these were the sons of Aholibamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife, and she bare to Esau Jeush and Jaalam and Korah. In verse 15, these were the dukes of the sons of Esau. Dukes. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, Duke Teman, Duke Omar, Duke Zepho, Duke Kenaz, Duke Korah, Duke Gatam, and Duke Amalek. Now, Amalek is a name you might recognize because he's the father of the Amalekites. These are the dukes that came of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Ada. And these are the sons of Ruel, Esau's son, Duke Nahath, Duke Zerah. Didn't they already say that? Duke Shammah, Duke Mizah. These are the dukes that came of Ruel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Bashemath, Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Aholibamah, Esau's wife, Duke Jeush, Duke Jaalam, Duke Korah. These were the dukes that came of Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. I wonder how many times it's going to make me say that. I'm hearing the same names over. These are hard to say. These are the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these are their dukes. Now in verse 20, these are the sons of Seir the Horite, who inhabited the land, Lotan and Shobal and Zibeon and Anah, and Dishon and Ezer and Dishan. These are the dukes of the Horites, and the children of Seir in the land of Edom. And the children of Lotan were Hori and Hemam, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. And the children of Shobal were these, Alvan and Manahath, and Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. And these are the children of Zibeon, both Ajah and Anah. This was that Anah that found the mules in the wilderness, as he fed the asses of Zibeon his father. And the children of Anah were these, Dishon and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah. And these are the children of Dishon, Hemnan and Eshban and Ithron and Cheron. The children of Ezer are these, Bilhan and Zaavan and Achan. The children of Dishan are these, Uz and Aran. These are the dukes that came of the Horites: Duke Lotan, Duke Shobal, Duke Zibeon, and Duke Anah. Duke Dishon, Duke Ezer, Duke Dishan. These are the dukes that came of Hori among the dukes in the land of Seir. In verse 31, and these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before there reigned any king over the children of Israel. And Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhaba. And Bela died, and Jobab, sorry. Okay, let me try that again. Okay. All right. Sorry, Mike. Okay. All right. All right, let's try that again. Let's try that again in verse 33. Oh, come on. Woo. Oh, that brought tears to my eyes. I'm sorry. Okay. And Bela died, and Jobab, the son of Zerah and Bozrah, reigned in his stead. And Jobab died, and Husham of the land of Temani reigned in his stead. And Husham died, and Hadad the son of Bedad, who smote Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his stead. And the name of his city was Avith. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his stead. And Samlah died, and Saul of Rehoboth by the river reigned in his stead. And Saul died, and Baal-Hanan, the son of Achbor, reigned in his stead. And Baal-Hanan, the son of Achbor, died, and Hadar reigned in his stead. And the name of his city was Peu, and his wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahab. And these are the names of the dukes that came of Esau, according to their families, after their places, by their names: Duke Timnah, Duke Alva, Duke Japheth, Duke Aholibama, Duke Elah, Duke Pinon, Duke Kenaz, Duke Teman, Duke Mibzar, Duke Magdiel, Duke Iram. These be the dukes of Edom, according to their habitations, in the land of their possession. He is Esau, the father of the Edomites. Wow, thank God. We're done with that one. Wow. Okay, let's go on straight on into chapter 37. Whew. And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flocks with his brethren. And the lad was with the sons of Bela, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Now, the sons of the concubines, these were the ones that were doing evil. They had evil intentions in their when they were doing their work, when they were tending the flock. In verse 3, now Israel, that's Jacob, loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a coat of many colors. Have you ever heard of Joseph's coat of many colors? And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him. They were jealous of him and could not speak peaceably unto him. They hated him so much that they couldn't even speak to him peaceably. In verse 5, and Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. He's saying that yours bowed down before mine. And his brethren said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. So he's saying they're bowing down. In verse 10, and he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee, to the earth? Well, it does end up happening that way, doesn't it, in the long run? In verse 11, and his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. His father was thinking about it. In verse 12, and his brethren went to feed their flocks in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, here am I. And he said to him, go, I pray thee, and see whether it be well with thy brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, what seekest thou? Well, what are you looking for? In verse 16, and he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, they are departed hence. They left. For I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. In verse 18 of Genesis 37, and when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. They can see him coming from a distance, and they're talking among themselves and going, here he comes. And they are starting to talk about, well, why don't we just get rid of him? And they're talking among themselves as he's drawing near. In verse 19, and they said to one another, behold, this dreamer cometh. In verse 20, come now, therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, some evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. In verse 21, and Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. So Reuben was like, uh-oh, they're wanting to kill him. I got to stop him from doing that. But there's so many of them, I'm going to suggest to put him in the pit, and then later I'll come back for him. In verse 23, and it came to pass when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it. In verse 25 of Genesis 37, and they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked. And behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. So he sees a caravan going by. And Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content, so they sold him. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. So this is a picture of the Messiah. The Messiah was sold for silver as well, betrayed for silver. Joseph was betrayed for silver, and so was the king. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. In verse 29, and Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he rent his clothes. He's tearing his clothes. So Reuben evidently wasn't there when Joseph was sold. But when he came back, Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned unto his brethren and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats and dipped the goat in the blood. Dipped the coat in the blood. In verse 32, and they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, this have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. In verse 33, and he knew it and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. In verse 34, and Jacob rent his clothes. That means he tore his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins. Sackcloth is a very itchy, uncomfortable material that is it's a way of, you put it on because you refuse to be comforted, okay? And mourned for his son many days. In verse 35, and all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, Jacob. But he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. In verse 36, and the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard. Okay, we're going to keep going. Let's go straight into chapter 38. And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned in to a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chazib when she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. Did you hear that? Wow. The Messiah descended from Judah's line, but Judah's firstborn was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. That means he was born by the will of the flesh. He was not born with a temple inside him. In verse 8, and Judah said unto Onan, go in unto thy brother's wife and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. That was their custom, that if the firstborn died, the secondborn son was to take the wife of the firstborn who had died and bear seed for his brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. He wasn't willing to do it. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord. Wherefore he slew him also. So the Lord slew Judah's first two sons. Then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at thy father's house, till Shelah my son be grown. For he said, lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. So he's telling her, go back to your father's house and remain a widow until the youngest son is of age. In verse 12, and in process of time, the daughter of Shelah, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted and went up unto his sheep shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. In verse 14, and she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. So Judah did not do what he was supposed to do by giving his third son to Tamar, because he got it in his head that it was Tamar that was cursed, rather than understanding that God slew his first two sons. It had nothing to do with Tamar. In verse 15, when Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot, because see, she had her face covered, because she had covered her face. In verse 16, and he turned unto her by the way and said, go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee, for he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. She's all covered, and he doesn't know who she is. And she said, what wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me? So she's playing the harlot, like a prostitute. And she's saying, well, what are you going to give me? And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it? She's saying, well, or what are you going to leave me as collateral until you bring it? And he said, what pledge shall I give thee? And she said, thy signet and thy bracelets and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave it her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. In verse 19, and she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adullamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. She had already left. In verse 21 of Genesis 38, then he asked the men of that place, saying, where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. In verse 22, and he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place. In verse 23, and Judah said, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. In verse 24, and it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar thy daughter-in-law hath played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, bring her forth and let her be burnt. In verse 25, when she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man whose these are, am I with child. And she said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these, the signet and the bracelets and the staff? Reekage, huh? In verse 26, and Judah acknowledged them. He knew those were his, and said, she hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son. And he knew her again no more. So he did not take her as a wife or know her biblically any further. In verse 27, and it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this, and we'll pick up again in Genesis 38 and verse 28 right after this. Straight up.